We see motion in several forms. But what produces motion? Let us find out. This cargo ship started moving because the tugboat pulled it out of the harbor. This ball was set into motion as it was pushed by a bat. This pendulum bob started oscillating because it was pulled by the gravity of the earth. And this propeller was set in rotational motion because it was pushed by the wind. In all these examples, we saw that there was an interaction between two bodies in the form of a push or a pull that resulted in motion. In the language of physics, this push or pull is called force. So how do we compare and measure forces? In a tug-of-war game, both teams pull with different amounts of force in opposite directions. That means force has both magnitude and direction, and therefore it is a vector quantity. The SI unit of force is Newton. It is defined as the amount of force required to produce an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in a body whose mass is 1 kilogram. The CGS unit of force is dyne. It is defined as the amount of force required to produce an acceleration of 1 centimeter per second square in a body whose mass is 1 gram. Now, let us understand the different types of forces using some examples. There are two types of forces that we see around us: contact forces and non-contact forces. As the name suggests, contact forces result due to an interaction between two bodies that are in contact with each other, whereas non-contact forces result due to an interaction between two bodies that are at a distance from each other. Let us first look at three examples of contact forces. Consider this doctor leaning against a wall. The wall exerts a perpendicular force on the doctor and prevents her from falling. A similar force is exerted by the floor. Such a perpendicular force that a rigid body exerts upon another body is the most common example of a contact force and is called normal force or supportive force. Another common contact force is friction. This moving ball slows down and eventually stops moving due to the opposite force of friction. But the most common example of a contact force is applied force. Pushing a doorbell switch, pulling our pet dog, kicking a football, all are examples of applied force. Now, let us look at the three non-contact forces around us. The first amongst them is gravity. If you are flying in an airplane that is just about to crash and you jump off, you come down to the earth. This is because the gravity of the earth pulls you towards itself. The next is magnetic force. Amongst magnets, like poles repel and unlike poles attract. And the third one is the electrostatic force. This force acts between positive and negative charges. If the charges are similar, they repel each other. However, if the charges are opposite, they attract each other. And now, the summary of this video. Force is a push or pull that changes the state of rest, motion, or shape of a body. The SI unit of force is Newton and the CGS unit of force is dyne. Forces can be contact forces or non-contact forces. Common contact forces are normal force, friction, and applied force. Gravity, magnetic force, and electrostatic force are non-contact forces. So that's all in this video. In the next video, we will discuss the first law of motion.